Welcome back, everyone. We are on page 8 of the Srandard of Excellence Book 1 book. We're doing a snare drum demonstration and something for you to practice and play along with. So get your sticks ready. Make sure that your drum or your pad is ready. Your drum is muffled or muted so that you're not bothering your family members and they let you practice, because you can't practice. If you can't practice, you can't get good, right? So you need to take care of that so that you're able to practice and able to become a good percussionist. It takes lots of practice to be a good musician. All right, so we're going to start right out with number 8, exercise 8 in the book. And remember, I'm doing these 3 different ways. We're going to do our 3 levels. 1 to 2 inches is level 1. Level 2, 3 to 4 inches. Level 3 is 4 to 5 inches. And soft, medium, and loud. Piano, mezzo, and forte. So let's start out with our piano version of this, and we'll play along. And remember, you're reading the right-handed stickings in the book because they give you choices on a lot of these. Let's see, here we go. Number 8. Breath of fresh air.
1, 2, ready, play.
Make sure you also count.
1, 2,
in your head
ready,
or out loud.
play.
Forte or loud volume.
1, 2, ready, play.
So I'm going to move on to number 9. This one has now different rhythms in each measure. It's sort of in a pattern of 2 measures. So again, notice that our sticking is staying with what we call natural sticking, which is your right hand playing on 1 and 3, your left hand playing on 2 and 4. If there's a rest, you just leave that one out. So I'll sort of demonstrate some of them where I'm leaving the note out off to the side, sort of air drumming them, but then I'll stop at some point so that you can kind of see the way you ultimately want to do the whole thing. If you don't need to do that, by the way, don't do it. There's no real need to do it unless it just feels more comfortable for you at first, and then you want to work your way out of that, of course. Okay, here we go. Number 9, side by side.
Number 9, side by side.
1, 2, ready, play.
Good. We'll try a medium volume.
1, 2, ready, play.
All right, and now our forte or loud volume.
1, 2, ready, play.
always, I'm going to be giving you little technique tips in between these as I think of them mostly. Notice that I'm trying to be as consistent as I can with the heights slash volumes. Either look in the camera, or if you have a mirror, you can do that, and you can look at your heights that way. You can also just look down, and it's kind of interesting when you see the path of the stick, because you're moving it like this, and you see how much it's moving from here to here, right? That you just work on that consistency so that you get even volumes, because when you do play a lot of notes in a row, you don't want it to sound like you're limping when you play da 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 da. You want it to be da 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 da. It's as even as sounding as possible. Part of that also is where you're gripping the stick, because if you're gripping one of them really close to the bottom and one of them not so close to the bottom, the one that's close to the bottom is going to sound louder, because that's the way levers work, right? When you're bending your wrist a certain amount, it's going to move the stick more if you're gripping down closer to the bottom, if you're moving your wrist the same amount. So the whole idea, these are all what we call wrist strokes. You just basically all comes from the wrist. Notice I'm never using my arms when I play, and that's the biggest mistake I always see drummers do when they're beginners, is that they want to come in and they want to do this, go, 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 and it's really, really, really hard to control evenness in volume when you're doing that. Plus, it slows you down, because these are big muscles you're using to do a little job. So use your wrists. It's kind of like knocking on a door. You wouldn't knock like this, because you'd hurt your knuckles, and it would just be really inefficient motion, okay? So use efficiency in your motion by limiting everything to your wrist. Stay relaxed, dribble a basketball to demonstrate, knock on a door to demonstrate. It's the same basic movement, okay, when you have the stick in your hand, okay? All right, let's try number 10, 2x2. The snare drum version, here's where we start having accents. So I'm not going to do this in different volumes. What I'm going to do is I'm going to say the accented notes are level 3, which is our loud volume, and then everything else I'm going to play low to the drum. I'm going to play at the level 1. So you're going to see two distinct volumes happening here. Because there's no sticking there, I'm just going to continue to use natural sticking, okay? Now you don't always have to do this. Sometimes, like in measure 2, when you have the accented quarter note on 1 and then a rest on 2 and then an unaccented quarter note on 3, you could do your left hand. That's totally acceptable. And technically, if you were playing nothing but count 1 and 3, that's probably what you would do. You would switch your natural sticking to be twice as long, if that makes any sense. Kind of like playing a half note. So these are mostly quarter notes. So what I'll do is I will stick to normal natural sticking, and I'll do my right hand on 1 and 3, and my left hand on 2 and 4 only, which will mean my right hand is working harder, okay? Now if that's super difficult for you, feel free to switch. In fact, what I'll do is maybe halfway through, since it's the same rhythm, I'll do right hand on 1 and 3, left hand on 2 and 4 for the first 4 measures, and then I'll switch halfway through, and I'll show you how you can, every other measure, when you have the quarter note, the quarter rests on 2, and then you can do that quarter note on your left hand. That's totally acceptable as well. That spreads out, more work for both hands, and there's nothing wrong with doing that. If it were the same rhythm over and over again, I would be more likely to stick to natural sticking, but because the sticking changes, we have some options there. Number 10, I'm going to do 2 times. I'm going to do it once where I do the natural sticking as I've told you in the past, where your right hand is always on 1 and 3, left hand is always on 2 and 4. And then the second time through, I'm going to switch it and do one that sort of evens out the stickings a little bit more, where your left hand on the even numbered measures would go ahead and play count 3, since it's a quarter note and then a quarter rest and then another quarter note and then another quarter rest. We'll spread that one out and make that more like a longer version of natural sticking, okay? If we had nothing but measure 2 over and over again, we would go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And that spreads the work out a little bit more. So I'll do it the 2 different ways, okay? Here's the first version, normal natural sticking for number 10.
Number 10, 2x2.
Watch those accents.
1, 2, ready, play.
that's not a 2-measure pattern, is it?
1,
Switches up.
2, ready, play.
So you can see that there are 2 perfectly acceptable ways of doing that. The other thing I'll say is that now that we're getting into accents, if that gives you a lot of trouble, there's nothing wrong with playing everything the same volume and doing like we've done in the past, since you're reading rhythms. So I'm thinking that, just looking ahead a little bit, same is true. There's not a complete pattern in number 11. So if that's confusing for you to be doing accents and playing the mix up rhythmic patterns, then I would say just, forget about the accents, play everything one level, and read the rhythms, okay? Once you get good at reading the rhythms, then maybe start throwing in the accents, okay? Sticking wise, this one is a lot more consistent, so I'm gonna do my normal right hand on 1 and 3, left hand on 2 and 4, natural sticking, okay? I'll go ahead and play this 2 times. Since I'm doing it 2 times, I'll do it once with no accents, second time with accents. Here we go.
Number 11, half the price.
1, 2, ready, play.
Now we'll go with our accents at level 3.
1,
everything
2,
else level 1.
ready, play.
Moving on to number 12. Number 12, Cardiff by Sea. This one also involves some accents, sort of a changing, no real rhythmic pattern here. So the other thing I didn't mention for number 11 as well as for number 12 is that we have half notes now. Half notes are on a snare drum are going to sound exactly like a quarter note followed by a quarter rest, and you count them the same way. So again, just count the 1, 2, 3, 4 in every measure on accents. Here we go. Number 12.
Number 12, Cardiff by the Sea.
1, 2, ready, play.
Now with the accents.
1, 2, ready, play.
Noticed that because that one has all of the accents on 1 and 3, my right hand was always playing accents, my left hand was always playing. Another word for the low notes that we call sometimes in snare drum is taps. So we're playing taps with our left hand in that one. Let's go on to number 13. 13 is a duet. So the way this one works is you have a bass drum part for your what we call the B part, okay? Everyone else has a harmony part for their B part, all the other notated instruments, the tonal instruments, I should say. And the snare drum is the A part, okay? And this is sort of an introduction to having bass drum and snare drum. So I will go ahead and play the snare drum part. Everything is the same level. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do it 2 times. The first time, 13A, I will do everything natural sticking, the way we had talked about. And then I'll do it the second time where I'm sort of distributing the sticking a little bit more, okay?
Number 13, 2 for the show,
13A.
duet.
Both
You
times.
play the A part while listening to the B part.
1, 2, ready, play.
Ghosting those notes, those missing notes,
This time,
or the missing
you play
counts,
the
I
B
should say.
part while listening to
We're
the
going
A
to stick
part.
to the A part.
1, 2, ready, play.
So there's lots of ways you could stick that, but you know, in certain measures, especially the ones that have 3 notes or more, I would stick to natural sticking because that's kind of the general rule of thumb in percussion. All right, so let's move on to 14. I'll do this 2 times, once with no accents, everything level 2, and then the second time with accents. I think with this one, I'm going to not do strict natural sticking the whole time. I'm going to, if there's 3 notes or more, it's always 3 notes, it's never more, then I'm going to do natural sticking. But on the measures that only have 2 notes or 1 note, you know, you won't necessarily get natural sticking. I may get that spread out natural sticking where right hand would be on 1 and left hand would be on 3, okay? So let's give it a try. 2 times. First time, no accents. Second time with accents. There we go. Level 2.
1, 2, ready, play.
Okay, this time with accents.
1, 2, ready, play.
Cha-cha-cha. All right. So hope you enjoyed playing through that page. We're going to see you on page 9. Okay? Take care. Bye-bye.